Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch channel on YouTube, also at overwatchproject.com. I want to talk to you about a lot of things today. Reality, polarity, the Kabbalah, a book I read recently. God Reconsidered, another book I read recently. Less Incomplete, another book. The Disclosure Project with Stephen Greer. Some comparisons to what other people say, like John Mack, about UFOs, Star Wars, the Reincarnation Trap, SoulNet, the Sumerian texts, Dr. Carla Turner, some stuff about the Archons, Demiurge, all kinds of neat stuff. I sort of had all this stuff on my mind. I just want to kind of get it out there. I thought about breaking it down into smaller videos, but been doing a lot of short videos lately. I thought I'd just give a talk as long as it goes. We'll see what happens. So if you're out there and you're trying to understand reality, I mean, really, why are we here? Where did we come from? What's the meaning of life? And you have your religions, and they've got their little package deals, some of which, if not all, or depending on which religion it is based completely on fiction. Others, it's just about power and control. And then you have your scientisms and your scientists that are mostly material, not all, but most. They have their agendas. They have their materialist worldview that they have to maintain. And these are the two main polarities, the polarized sides. And I want to say something right now. I did not know about things like hermetics. Because of my heavy indoctrination that I had to get rid of as I was doing my research, and I realized I could no longer support the worldview I was born into, I had to deprogram myself, and it's taken me years, and still I find remnants of one thing or another, something I have to shed. But basically, just to cut to the short of it all, the reality is that if you look at all the information, data, and evidence available, you can get a broad overview of reality that is consistent with all the data points. And what I mean by that is I try to look at all the data, and I see other people out there, and what they do is when they have one piece of the puzzle they don't like, they simply discard it, and then they work around it. And that doesn't give you a real picture of reality. It gives you a distorted picture of reality. And a real picture is very hard to focus in on, because like this bird's eye view here, which is sort of where I got one of the inspirations for my Overwatch project. That's why there's kind of like this swooshing liquid crow as the logo, because it's got a bird's eye view of reality, but it's not. It doesn't know, other people out there will tell you a story about what's going on in this building, but they don't know what's going on in the building. They'll tell you a story about what's going on over here. But see, you can tell there's stuff there, and you can tell a lot of information, but you don't know what's going on inside that building from this view. Reality is like that. There are things that are unknowable, and people don't like the unknown. So when they research this stuff, they tend to fill in the gaps with stories. So you get these, stories. Now, everybody's heard of Zecharia Sitchin and the Sumerian text and all this stuff, and if you go to the ETCSL website, which is the official Oxford University translation from a whole bunch of scholars that have translated a lot of these tablets, and you look at the some of these translations, like for example, especially this one, Enki and Nimma, it is clear from this translation how somebody like Sitchin could come up with some of the stories that he's told us. But those stories are filled with details that I can't find in these texts. But the texts give you do say some pretty profound things. Remember, these are original writings. They're written in clay, not papyrus. They're preserved. They're thousands and thousands of years older than any other text that we have. And this one here, for example, the Enki Enigma one, is profound in that it states that humanity was created to deal with work that the minor gods, what these Sumerians wrote out as minor gods, did not want to do anymore, and the superior gods then made basically humans to fill that gap. And if you take a look at all the evidence about reality, and look at it honestly, I've said this before, but for new viewers out there, you have your spirit or your true conscious essence, what you really are, the conscious being, that's literally implanted inside of a physical body. Now, some people, like Rupert Sheldrake, they want to talk about brain as being like a receiver of consciousness, like a radio antenna. But, again, why not just take the data, what the data says, and go with it? Okay, what do people describe in near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences? What are they describing? They don't describe that they've suddenly been disconnected from their body and they appear somewhere else. No, that's not what they're describing. They are describing literally popping out of their bodies. NDE cases that you can't find any that don't describe that. They pop out of their bodies. In OBE accounts, you come out of your body. Your brain is not a receiver. It is a processor. It is a containment unit. The body and the brain are containing your consciousness, and your consciousness is individualized. The other thing is that you can figure out from all the data is that our consciousness is literally, along with everything else in this reality realm, split into a duality. So it's actually divided against itself. We know this. It's common knowledge that you have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. The conscious mind is, and this has nothing to do with sexism or anything like that. This has to do with polarity and energies. And the conscious mind is the male traits, and the subconscious mind is more of the female traits. And your mind is literally split in two. And you cannot easily communicate from one side to the other, right? Your subconscious tries to tell you things in imagery. Your conscious mind can make an impression on your subconscious mind, and then you end up with some clusterfuck problem that you have, like an anxiety issue or something, because your subconscious has been inadvertently programmed with an issue that you've given it. Now, if your mind was whole, it wouldn't be divided against itself. I don't think you'd be prisoner in your body very long, or prisoner in this reality. But because your mind is literally broken in two, and here's the thing: as I'm doing all this research, and I'm sorry if I digress a bit, but I'm just gonna kind of talk and give out information as it comes to me here. I did not know about Hermetics. I did not know about the Kabbalah, this awesome book, which is literally like the quick guide to reality. I did not know about these things. The reason that I recently started reading Hermetics and a book like the Kabbalah, is that I came across it in the bookstore. I think I was subconsciously blocking out this stuff because it has been so programmed into me that like the first thing that fell was the Gnostic texts. I had been programmed to think that they were evil, that they shouldn't be looked at. They've been thoroughly debunked by the Christian apologists and all this sort of stuff. But when I started reading them, and you take a look at the world around you, the Gnostic text started resonating as like, oh, this doesn't sound crazy at all. This actually gives a much better explanation for good versus evil, but or the human condition than certainly anything else I've ever read in ancient texts. Perhaps Buddhism comes close, but that's about it. So then But I never looked at, the other connecting things that like Gnostics would be very familiar with, was be like Hermetics or a book like the Kabbalah. But then I picked one up at a bookstore. I happened to see it on a shelf, and I was just wondering the title, or maybe some synchronicity brought me to it. And it's really satisfying when you observe and note and document something before you read about it somewhere else, and then when you read about it, it's like what you've been thinking, but you just didn't have a name for it, and you didn't know how to articulate it as well as what somebody else wrote about it that knew more of than you did. So here I am, like back in 2013 or 14, whenever this debate was, and I'm watching these two debate, Ken Ham and Bill Nye, and I was observing. I began realizing that this was just like two pillars here, two polarizing pillars. The audience expected to choose between one of these two sides, and I was sitting there watching this video on YouTube, going, well, I noticed that when Bill Nye says something that, or brings up some detail, fact, or evidence that counters Ken Ham's worldview, that Ken Ham does not deal with it appropriate. Then I noticed that when Ken Ham brings up something Bill Nye can't explain, he does not deal with it appropriately. He doesn't deal with the facts in front of him, or he doesn't even address or is willing to address the fact that it is a flaw in their worldview. They both do this. And of course, immediately I thought, well, they're both wrong, so the answer lies elsewhere. And I'm like, why can't other people see that? Why are people stuck in this, I have to choose one or the other? And they're there. And even this image that I'm showing you here, it's like two literal pillars. Well, I'm reading the Kabbalah, and I saw this in other places too, and other things in the book that I thought were fascinating, because I was observing them in real life. And I didn't know what to call them exactly, but I, knew what they were. And then I read this book, and it's like a lot of stuff in here. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I thought. Oh yeah, this is what I've deduced from all my years of research and thousands of hours of thinking about this shit. And so I highly recommend this book, because if you haven't read it already, it's like the quick starter guide to understanding reality. It's available for free online at all kinds of places, because it's in the public domain by now. It even has a free audio version on LibriVox and on YouTube, because it is been, a lot of people have read it or recorded it. So it's available. All you have to do is search for it. But you know how you buy something and it comes with a big manual, and then it has the quick start guide. The Kabbalion's like that quick start guide. It really does cover just about everything in a way you can understand, and you can look at the real world, and you can see pretty much everything they talk about in the book. So, even in today, right? I mean, you can probably flip this the other way around and have people that are on the opposite side of this spectrum do the same exact experiment, and they will probably get very close to the same results. These people here, they're told Obama policies, but they're told that it's from Trump, and of course, if they're against Trump, they're polarized in one direction, and they don't even think this guy's wearing like some communist t-shirt here. I mean, this is hilarious, but it's also sad because it's how people are controlled. Nobody's thinking. There's a reason why we only have like two choices in most political elections, if we even have an actual election. And the reason is division of two, duality, which is a good segue into Star Wars. Now, Star Wars, the Force, is the Demiurge. Okay? In the fictional allegory of Star Wars, the Force is light and dark, but it is the same entity. It is the same thing, right? It has a light side and a dark side. And what do we see in Star Wars world? We have so many movies now and novels and everything else, and you get a vicious cycle, never-ending vicious cycle. The rebellion wins, the Republic rises, the Empire rises, the Republic falls, the rebellion starts, the Jedis are wiped out, the Jedis come back. I don't know what they're going to do in this movie number 8, but it is really interesting in the trailer, because it essentially describes our demiurgic, Archon-ruled shithole world in the trailer. You know, what do you see? Luke asks Rey, what do you see? And she says, I see light, I see dark, I see balance. And then he ends the trailer by, it's time to end the Jedi, which is interesting because, you know, if you were to break, say, the division between consciousness, if you were to break some duality, then when you break the duality, that's when things really get interesting, right? And in Star Wars, it's just a fictional, science fiction allegory. And I don't know if George Lucas meant it this way. I think he was more or less inspired by like some Zen or Buddhist stuff when he wrote this. But it's just a never-ending battle, right? And it's exactly what's described, and exactly the environment you would want if you were farming souls for energy, and you were keeping them ignorant and in a state of amnesia. And this was going on and on and on for thousands of years. I don't know what our lost history is. There's so much lost history in the past we've lost, and we may have had civilizations. It's either one of two things, and either we've had civilizations that didn't have these problems in the past, and we were somehow invaded or intruded upon by something that the Gnostics refer to as the Demiurge and these Archons. And today we may call them like ETs from UFOs or whatever. I think they're all the same. These malevolent, evil parasites. And perhaps in this mess, we somehow have lost our history, and we've lost our control of our consciousness, and we've been enslaved and farmed for energy. And I don't know, maybe it could be that we've always been, anybody on this planet has always been a slave in a biological container, and that when too many people figure it out, then there's a cataclysm that wipes everybody out and the system is reset. That could be it too, you know. I don't know. But this is a good segue into UFOs now. Let's do that. So, Archons, right? You have different kind of researchers out there. You have the researchers that like to make up stories, right? They have information, the same information I'm looking at, same information that you're looking at out there if you're really into this stuff. And you have researchers that love to create fantasy stories about the Anunnaki, and they were mining for gold and this and that and the other thing. And that may be true, but there's no way for me to figure it out where they're getting that conclusion from. I've looked. I can't figure out exactly where they're getting those specific details. Those are sort of like concocted theories based on very limited information. There's sort of like a story to fill in the data points of an incomplete model, if you will. Then you have people that are in complete, utter, total denial, and at this point, I have to say I have a sort of a I don't give a fuck attitude, okay? If you're an atheist and you you probably haven't made it this far into the video, you just looked at the title and started trolling comments below, or if you're a religious person, you're going to tell me that, you know, oh, you have to accept this, or you have to do that, and you're not hearing what I'm saying, and you're not able to think outside of your little boxes, so why should we give a fuck? You're doomed to be in the system here and probably be reincarnated for who knows how long. And you can't. One thing about Gnosis or Gnostics that I think they'll all agree, or most of them will agree with, is that it's an individualized thing. There's no church. There's no leader. It's a personal, individualized thing that you have to go out and research information, data, and etc., and learn on your own, and commit yourself to. I want to know what my reality is about. I want to know why I'm here and where I'm going. I'm going to figure it out. I know that I've been born into a shitty system of belief or non-belief, and I have to get rid of that first before I can see. I want an overview or overwatch position over all the data, But then you have the people that actually have a working knowledge of all the information that I've looked at and that others have looked at, and they come up with the most fucking bizarre ideas that don't fit the information. And they go around and peddle it, like Dr. Stephen Greer. He will acknowledge, information about consciousness. He's gone to the Monroe Institute. He's talked there. And he is convinced himself that the only evil forces really come from inside our government. And of course, I also acknowledge that some of these abduction cases may be false flag operations or some kind of covert propaganda operation. And then, like him, I acknowledge that there are others that are real, supernatural, alien, if you want to call them that, abduction and, events. And alien or supernatural UFO sightings and events and things like that. But for him, these are interstellar, peaceful beings. Oh, if we could just make contact with them. Oh my gosh, the world would be so wonderful. Oh, free energy and love for everyone. Completely ignoring all the data that we have. John Mack, who passed away, but his work continues. He realized the same data that Greer's looking at, but he came to some more similar conclusion to me. If you really think about it, Archons, what are they supposed to be, right? They're supposed to be supernatural entities, or entities that exist more in the spirit world. If they were going to operate inside of our material world, and if this material world was a prison or a farming operation, then and a reincarnation trap, then in order to operate here more materially, right, you would need physical bodies and you would need some kind of physical tech. Now, you could probably generate that because you're manipulating the system. So you clone some bio entities like grays or whatever, and you plug your consciousness in there, and then you can operate here like a suit, like our bodies. Now, they can pop out of their bodies and go back to the higher realms or whatever, and we're kind of stuck here because we have amnesia and we're ignorant. But just the fact that they haven't blown us up, that's Stephen Greer's big argument there. Well, they could have wiped us out anytime they want to because they're so high tech and we're so primitive and blah blah blah. Well, you don't go blowing up your farm, right? If you're a farmer, do you go around and if the cows figure out that if the cows figure out that they're not really cows, that they're really some higher or if the cows figure out that they're actually on a farm and they want to get out, do you go around and slaughter them, or you just build a better fence? A similar person to, I guess you could say, a better analysis of UFOs comes from Dr. Carla Turner. Now, she is also looking at the same data that Greer is looking at, but she has a much more articulate explanation for it and isn't afraid to say cannot be a good thing. Of course, she's conveniently dead. Suddenly, she got cancer in 1996 and dropped dead. Just as she was publishing her 4th book, I think. And she was starting to make some headway and gaining some popularity, and poof, gone. But on my website, I have a couple of great playlists: The Real Matrix and UFOs, and you can see a lot of documentaries on there and stuff. And if you go to my YouTube channel and search for those two playlists, or bring them up in the links. And of course, you can go to my Overwatch projects thing and bring up some great library of links there that will give you a great head start if you're new to this research. I just wanted to say, I just don't understand why people can't just accept, the broad picture and understand that, yeah, we can talk about stories about stuff, but we can't, know everything. Now, real quick, a couple of books. God Reconsidered from Scott Smith. I don't know how this guy could have written this book that could have been perfect. It would have been the book I could have recommended to everyone to read, because 80% of it is exactly what I'm saying here, but articulated so much better. But for some odd reason, Scott Smith has this issue about reincarnation. He doesn't want to. Believe in it. He's biased against it, and it's really bizarre when you read his book. He dismantles materialism. He dismantles religions. He dismantles pseudo-skeptics or fake skeptics, how people engineer skepticism when they don't want to believe something. Does a great job of that. And then he uses the same exact ploys, tricks that he described that others do when he addresses reincarnation. Now, in this video I'm talking to you about, I'm just going to assume as my subscribers that you're well informed and you have done a lot of research on your own, so that you know enough that there's a couple things you can know for sure about our reality. One is that we're conscious entities that are inside physical bodies, and then when our bodies shut down, our conscious self exits, and then you can study near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences to find out what that's all about. Another thing that you can know is that reincarnation happens, okay? And for this guy to blow it off and then ruin the whole entire reality model that he's got in this book, because now none of it makes any sense. Now, the whole book, I still recommend reading it because, like I said, 80% of it is right on. But the book has problems because of this reincarnation loophole that he's created. Now, if humans were here in lower numbers and we were here and there's this Demiurge or these Archons or whatever, these are just like name holders for what you're seeing happen here, which is some kind of prison environment. And we have much more humans now. And he addresses the fact that, you shouldn't assume that the maker or the source of the spirit in a person is the same maker as the biological body. Right on. Either we were made by the bodies were made by alien entities to contain to contain consciousness, because our consciousness is not human. It is just pure consciousness, pure spirit. But if human bodies remain to contain consciousness and imprison it, and we shouldn't assume that the consciousness comes from the same source, which is great. And then, of course, he discounts reincarnation, and then you have to ask the question, well, where is the consciousness coming from then to fill in all the extra bodies? I mean, it's just mind-blowing. But his book, it's like makes your head explode. And at the end, okay, I think what his problem is, he conflates karma, and thoroughly debunks karma, by the way, in a good articulated way, and he conflates karma with reincarnation. But if you remove karma, at the end of the book, he does mention briefly in like a sentence, if reincarnation is happening, it has nothing to do with karma. No shit. Karma's the trick to get people to agree to reincarnation. Which brings me to my next book, Less Than Complete by Sandy Gustis. This is unbelievable. This book paints everything as gloriously beneficial to us as a learning experience. It's magnificent. You must reincarnate here billions of times. I'm just exaggerating here, but I mean, they have this karmic scheme in this book. It's karma, it's polykarma, it's group karma, it's hollow karma. Oh, there's so many karmas out there. It's like a loan sharking Ponzi scheme of karma, and it's all good. All right, you can never get out of this. If you read this book, it'll blow your mind. Casually talks about and flips and flops back and forth. You know, like on one side, it's so bad that you can't remember your past life because it can cause you trauma, phobias, and PTSD in your present life. It's so good that you can't remember your past life because of this, that, or the other thing. It flips and flops positions as needed. It's unbelievable. Yet the book starts off with a quote from a Raymond Moody book where an NDEer says that returning to his physical body felt like being returned to prison. The book starts out with that quote, folks, and then it veers off into this unbelievable model of reality where it's all good. And that really blows my mind, how people can look at the data and justify it in their own minds. I don't understand. So this video has been pretty long, and I think I'm going to wrap it up. It's just, these are things that have been on my mind, and it's sort of like, I guess, kind of like, I don't know, rant or just a collection of thoughts. You see, I don't have people in my life that I can openly discuss this with, and that they can engage me in any kind of, informed feedback, because there simply isn't any. Okay, I'm at best tolerated by my immediate family, and I have one friend, and he shuts down the minute I say anything that he finds disturbing. So I don't. There's just you guys out there on YouTube, in YouTube world, and on my website. I appreciate your feedbacks. A lot of you are fantastic, and some of the comments I get back and emails on my website. If you leave comments and you're getting replies, I haven't set up the ability to reply to those comments, so it costs extra, and I'm funding this all on my own, and I don't want any donations, or I'm not selling anything. Before I go, real quick, I always forget. It's like Steve Jobs with that. Always one more thing. Trickedbythelight.com. This website from Wayne Bush. He's got 2 new audio files on here. One is an interview and one is a lecture. And I listened to them both. And he is pretty much right on the same page as me. I've corresponded with this guy. And he is right on target with pretty much me. But his website is like a deluge of information. Unbelievable amount of info here. You could spend, I don't know how much time going through all this stuff that he has accumulated. Basically all the same stuff I have, but he has actually written it all down, so he's much better than me. Okay? So, anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to end the video here with Tricked by the Light, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya. Bye.